Located at the edge of southwest Bristol, there sits a building from a bygone era. Ashton Court Mansion. Commanding extensive views over much of Bristol, it sits on 860 acres of parkland, of which some is an ancient deer park. Throughout its long history, the walls and gardens of this building have seen 4 generations of families leave their marks on them.
You've got just about every era from the last 1,000 years is represented here somewhere, either physically still here to touch or hidden away behind the walls somewhere or under the ground even. You know, people learn about history from books and from films. This place feels like it is history.
But despite the exciting exteriors, within the walls of the mansion lay many mysteries and tragedies.
One of the problems with this place is there is so much information. There's so much you don't know where to start.
And now the building finds itself in a state of peril. A state of dereliction has engulfed the mansion, and despite it being protected, its degraded shape has landed it in a status of real collapse.
The roof is beginning to fail because there are at least 3 damp areas where it comes inside the roof upstairs.
But how much of the public knows about it?
Not a lot, to be fair.
No, I don't know a lot about it either. And I've lived in Bristol my whole life, which is really bad.
Not a lot, to be honest. Just the fact it's a big manor house, big estate. Yeah, that's about it, really.
But I have heard about kind of like it's a historical place in Bristol.
With so little of the past known, what lies ahead for the future of Ashton Court Mansion? The earliest known mention of the manor can be traced back to 1086 AD. After William's conquest of England, a passage in the Domesday Book mentions the manor. Throughout the medieval ages, the manor was then owned by 3 merchant families. While little is known about the first family, the De Alnetos, the second family, the De Leons, are credited with establishing the deer park and installing the oldest known part of the mansion, the cross-braced roof.
The earliest building, De Leon Hall, we call it now, the age of that roof, which is potentially from the 1390s, or at least the start of the 1400s.
In 1454, the third family, the Chokes, left their mark by enlarging the house, adding battlements and walls around the manor, and rebuilding the Great Hall. A century later, the longest-running family moved in. The Smythes. For the next 4 centuries, the manor was sculpted by the Smythes. And while the mansion that we know today was finally taking shape, some of the glory came at a terrible price. In 1757, one of the Smythes, John Hugh Smythe, married a woman whose family owned a Jamaican slave plantation. It's likely this stream of money helped build the Northwest Wing.
The men almost always married for money, and that was put into the building.
Well, our ancestors paid for a lot of this, so when we look around at the grand architecture, we should feel entitled because we were the ones who paid for it.
It's really a very historical place, and I think that it needs to be promoted as that, but the true history does need to just be told.
As karma would have it, the sun was starting to set on Ashton Court's glory days. Social changes within the country persuaded more people to work in factories than as servants. Maintenance on the house fell. Rot and decay slowly began creeping in. But the Smythes continued living their lavish lifestyle, one that would ultimately bankrupt the estate. In 1959, Greville Cavendish, deep in debt, had no choice but to sell the manor to Bristol City Council, ending Ashton Court's 800-year-long history of serving as a private estate. For the next several decades, the mansion stood frozen in time, aging ungracefully as the rot took hold. Even worse, the northwest wing was afflicted with an arson attack in 2013, leaving the once vibrant room charred and at risk of higher collapse. The once prosperous and elegant manor was now a shell of its former glory. But fate was not done with the mansion just yet. In the 1970s, serious efforts were made by the Bristol City Council to rescue the once prosperous building. Its leaky roof was stripped and replaced, and the downstairs areas were restored. But sadly, the restoration efforts were abandoned by the end of the decade.
What I do know is that the council doesn't have a lot of money, and I can't see that being the top of the priority. I could be wrong.
But in 2018, Artspace Lifespace stepped in to run the mansion on behalf of the City Council.
We've taken on the lease of the space, and we're going to run events and workshops and hire it out to whoever wants to play with it.
Since then, the mansion has found renewed life within its walls.
We're going to be using it as a wedding venue for my daughter's wedding.
I got married here, so it represents coming up with our kids from really small ages.
Yeah, like the light show, and then you've got Love Saves the Day.
The balloons could go.
Yeah, the balloon fiesta.
It would be kind of like a part of our history as well, where an historical event happened.
But even now, most of the manor remains unavailable to the public. What more can be done?
It'd be nice to be renovated and be able to use the whole space.
It needs dozens of uses. It needs to be mixed use.
I would love to see residentials being held there.
It really should be a resource that is tapped into by schools.
Some money pumped into it.
A trust is given the lease of the place.
And can the manor atone for its past sins?
You know, I think it would be good to know that history and just understand that history. Whether you agree with it or not is one thing. I think it's there, it's real, and you have to just understand it and move forward from it.
What's good about the mansion is that it is a place now that is for everyone. It's not a privileged place, it's a place that's for community. It's a place for the arts, so we all should be able to go there and enjoy it.
Ashton Court is, at once, exciting, puzzling, neglected, and intensely sad. It is rare to find a building that pertains to so many different styles from the last 1,000 years. The mansion's future, much like the old dame of a mansion, is a mystery, but with a bit of luck, Ashton Court can flourish again and continue to provide for communities as it once did long ago.